Alright, hey guys, and welcome to another video. Today, I'm going to be giving you my first impressions of the Xbox One in the time that I've had the system so far. And just to remind you, if you check down below, I will have a link in the description to my PS4 impressions video, as well as my original video detailing why I bought both the PS4 and the Xbox One. But the system in the spotlight today is going to be the Xbox One. I want to start off by saying, right off from the start here, that I think that by far the Xbox One, for me personally, has a much better launch lineup. The games that I picked up for it have sort of had more of a staying power with me, more so than the PS4 launch, because the PS4, in terms of exclusives, only has Knack, Killzone, Shadowfall, and Resogun. Everything else is basically available on other consoles, whereas the Xbox One has a couple more games that I think kind of make it more of a strong launch lineup. But next, I just wanted to say that the console itself, it's big, it's bulky. I don't mind the design. I know some people absolutely hate the design of the Xbox One. It is big, it is heavy, especially compared to the PS4 when it's side by side. But the controller itself, it's actually really good. I didn't think they'd be able to sort of improve upon the Xbox 360 controller, but they totally did it with this controller here. It fits in the hand much more comfortably. The joysticks themselves have grips along the edges, so that your thumbs don't like slide off or anything like that. One thing that I like a bit more about the PS4 controller is just sort of like it has more of a grip on the back of the controller, so it's, I don't know, it gets less like slippery in terms of like when your hands get sweaty when you've been playing like a really intense game for a while. The Xbox One does not have that. The D-pad is much improved, much improved over the Xbox 360 one. The buttons themselves are nice and clicky. Everything feels really good. Even the shoulder buttons, the shoulder triggers, are much better than the Xbox 360 controllers, because especially like when you play a, I don't know, any kind of like game that requires like quick timing, like eventually when a shooter like Titanfall comes out on Xbox One, I can tell that the triggers are going to be very optimized for Twitch shooting and like Twitch gaming, and you know, on especially first-person shooters. It takes a lot less pressure and time to fully press it down. But probably the coolest feature of all in the controller itself is the rumble that's incorporated into these triggers. I know it was sort of getting hyped up early on in the launch of the Xbox One in terms of, oh, you got to feel the rumble in these triggers. But I have to say, it really did blow me away. Like when I'm playing, say, a game like Forza 5, and I feel the rumble in the triggers, and it really feels like you're driving a car, and like every little bump that you hit in the road, you feel it specifically in the vibration of the triggers. Like it's, I have to say, it might sound kind of weird, like how could that make a game that much better, but once you try it, I think you'll be a believer in just how good the rumble is, especially in the triggers of the Xbox One controller. Other than that, I do not like the placement of the home button. It's really out of the way, like it's all the way up here on the top of the controller. You really have to kind of reach for it. Other than that, I think the controller is basically perfect. It's a lot more like streamlined and everything. It's a bit thinner as well, I believe, compared to the Xbox 360 controller. Next, I wanted to talk about the interface itself of the Xbox One. I'm sure everybody wants to know about Kinect and what I think about the voice commands, and you know, have I told my Xbox to do this or that? No. Because if you watch my original video about why I'm buying PS4 and Xbox One, it's about the games. And to be quite honest, right now, with how bare bones in terms of what stuff is available on the Xbox One dashboard, I really haven't taken the time to sit down and really try out the Kinect stuff. I mean, I've tried it a little bit with very basic commands, but I don't know, as of right now, I'm finding it much more faster and simpler, and maybe just because I'm so accustomed to it, to just like input it with a controller. However, I have to say that if I do take the time in the future and find it, you know, kind of beneficial to actually sit down and learn the huge list of commands that you have to memorize, I think it would actually be really cool to kind of speed through the dashboard, giving all voice commands for different things. I think it'll be a lot more convenient once I have more apps and whatever else might get thrown onto the dashboard. But as of right now, I'm mainly just using my Xbox One as a gaming machine. Like, I'm not watching movies, I'm not watching Netflix or anything like that. And you know, going to the game store to buy, so there's really not much to do on there right now. So I've just been popping my games in and playing them. So I can't really give you too much of an impression when it comes to the Kinect interface itself. I have to say, detection-wise, it detects me much better than the original Kinect, which I had to sell off because The original Kinect just did not work in my game room here, the setup I had. But this one, nice wide viewing angle, detects my face. Apparently I can play games just fine sitting down, so I don't have to stand up and do all the wavy stuff that you had to do with the original Kinect. What else? The interface of like the dashboard, moving through the menus and everything seems really slick, really fast. I don't have any problems with that. In terms of like dashboard stuff, in terms of like pausing the game in the middle of a game and everything, all that seems fine. I mean, it really is like just a streamlined version of the 360 dashboard experience, with the added benefit of eventually something that I might get into more with the Kinect functionality. So what do you say we get into the games themselves? The first game that I wanted to talk about is, honestly, this might surprise some people here, but this I think is probably my favorite launch game across both systems right now. And I know this game's been getting really polarized scores, but I really, really, truly enjoy this game, and that is Ryse Son of Rome. What can I say? This is probably, in my opinion, the best looking launch game on both systems by far. Gameplay-wise, a lot of people are under the impression, because this originated as a 360 game that was all about quick-time button events and Kinect and all that stuff. Get that out of your mind. This game is not a button masher. It is totally not a quick-time event game. While finishing moves in this game might involve hitting certain buttons at certain times, the game trains you so that you're rewarded for memorizing the combo system and finishing system so that you can predict what buttons you have to press ahead of time to increase your score to the maximum. So I've sort of gotten to that level. I've been playing a lot of online multiplayer with this, so I'm at that point where I know these multi-chain finishing combos, the button prompts, way before the button comes up that it tells me to press. Like, I have to press X, X, Y, X. Well, the first time, like when I see the character in this game, or my character in multiplayer, getting ready into his finishing animation, I already know what combo's coming up and I have it memorized. And that's the fun of it, is the memorization of the combos. They never get old, they're brutal, they look amazing, the camera work in this game is just phenomenal. Graphically, like I said, it's drop dead gorgeous. I can't tell you how many times, even in the single player, that I've just like stood there looking around at these environments. It's so detailed. If you need a game to show off what next-gen consoles can do, this is probably the one. First impressions, if you pick this game up or watch somebody do a Let's Play, the beginning of the game is probably one of the most unimpressive looking parts of it. The later levels that you start getting into are where this game really starts shining. So the first level or two are kind of like underwhelming, but eventually it starts looking really, really nice. Online multiplayer, by the way, is 2-player co-op, which I find to be a heck of a lot of fun. I'm still working through the single player because I've mostly been playing a ton of online multiplayer. And yes, something else I want to address, there are in-game microtransactions in this game for real-world money. So you're paying $60 for a game, and you're also kind of, they try and encourage you to spend real-world money to get currency to unlock upgrades. Do not do it. Playing through this game on normal, you get so much points and currency to spend on upgrading your character that you would have to be an absolute idiot, and I truly mean that, to spend real-world money to upgrade your character. There is absolutely no point. Plus, you're taking away the fun of the progression of your character as you play through the levels. Multiplayer, they also try and give you an incentive to buy these credits so that you can buy packs of equipment for your character. But if you're decent at multiplayer, you're going to get so many credits you'll never have to spend a dime on buying packs of upgrades for your character, so don't worry about that stuff. Anyway, Ryse Son of Rome, I have to say I'm very impressed with this. Much more so than I thought it would be. I'm very glad that I ended up picking it up as one of my day one games on Xbox One. So next, I'm going to talk about Dead Rising 3. This is actually the last game I played of the bunch of Xbox One launch games that I picked up, and the reason being is I wanted to experience everything else first, because I heard that this is the most gamiest of games in terms of being an actual full-fledged game that doesn't feel like a launch game, and I have to say, I totally agree with that. This is a full-fledged, real game. It totally does not feel like a launch game. It's actually very impressive. Graphically, what this game does, it's a showstopper in terms of how many zombies are on screen will totally blow your mind, and no frame rate slowdown most of the time until you get into a vehicle in some points in the game. But other than that, like graphically, it's not like the best looking next-gen game, but where it really shines, like I said, is in how many zombies will be on screen at once. You're just mowing them down. It's so much fun. And my experience with the Dead Rising series, I did not play Dead Rising 2. I played 1. I I pretty much enjoyed that game for the most part, but it did get repetitive after a while. This game really surprised me in its setting, because instead of just being in a mall the whole time, you're in an entire city. And you're sort of given free reins to just do whatever you want, so you don't have to follow the story. And you can do what I did, is just like roam around, going to shops. And what's so great and so immersive about this game is the shops themselves are so detailed. Like, you think of last gen, when you'd go into like a free roam open world game and you go into like a store. There's so many stores that are closed off, or buildings that are closed off, that you can't get in. And when you do get into them, they're kind of underwhelming. They use a lot of the same textures and graphics and props and everything. This game is so varied in terms of every store you go into is like its own unique place within this game. You're not going to find another place, at least from what I played, like that anywhere else in the game so far. It's a lot of fun to craft weapons, and there's some really zany and crazy weapons in this game. I mean, probably the craziest thing I've made so far is a ginormous teddy bear with like machine guns on it that rotates and spins around, and it's bonkers. Those of you that were worried about this game losing its Dead Rising craziness, don't worry about that. What else can I really say about it? It's just a lot of fun. It's a great launch game that was kind of unexpected in terms of how full-fledged this game really is, in terms of upgrades and different weapons you can find. I'm not terribly far into it, but I'm really enjoying this game a lot so far, so I'm definitely looking forward to going back and playing some more of this. And it also does feature 2-player online co-op, which I have not had a chance to try yet. Okay, next is Forza Motorsport 5. Now, I have not played a Forza game since, like, Forza, 3 or 2? Whatever that launch pack-in game was. Or not a launch game, but it was one of those, like, pack-in games with the 360 with some other game where, or I think it was, like, Marvel Ultimate Alliance. So I think that was, Forza 2, 3? I don't remember. Let's just say I really haven't played a Forza game in quite some time, and I don't really have an extensive knowledge of the series. So, knowing that, going into Forza 5, I can't really weigh it against Forza Horizon, which I heard was pretty amazing, or Forza 4. But I can tell you one thing. I really like the presentation in this game. I know some people absolutely hate it, because this game uses some really weird soundtracks and musical scores where it's sort of like as if you're watching a really sad drama or epic film score while you're racing or you're in the menus. I actually think it's pretty awesome. Graphically, I don't know how much better a car racing game can get in terms of visuals. Like I said, I haven't really been keeping up with my simulation racers. I'm more of an arcade racer fan, but I decided to pick this up because it's a launch game. What can I say? Buy 2, get 1 free at Toys R Us, or whatever the deal was. Buy 2 games, or buy 3 games, get a $50 gift card. So I had to pick out a third game. I figured, why not one of the other exclusives? I've tried online. People kick my butt. I mean, I'm not that good at this game, and the main reason is because the cars I have, you have to upgrade them. And I mean upgrade. This is one of those games where if you're one of those kind of people where you just want to get in and race and get out, this is not the game for you. There's so many upgrade paths that you can take with like different parts of your vehicle. And the main culprit is that this game has, once again, in-money microtransactions, and people rose up and complained so much they actually changed it a bit to make cars cheaper and money easier to get. Because to get new cars, you don't unlock them as you progress in the game normally. Like in past games in the series, you only can get them by buying them, and to do that you have to use your credits that you earn by playing the game, and they sell real-world stuff like get double points, get triple points for, you know, X amount of real-life hours, like for one day or something. I mean, it's pretty... yeah, it's kind of... I'm not a fan of that kind of stuff, to be honest. But the game itself, it plays well, but honestly, I'm not sure if I'll keep this for that long. I might try and get rid of it while I can still get a decent chunk of my money back, because I really don't see myself revisiting this that much in the future. But for racing fans, it might be a game worth checking out. Before I get to the next game here, I'll talk about the one download game that I picked up, and that is Crimson Dragon. If you watched my other video from, a few weeks back, I mentioned that that is my most anticipated, or it was my most anticipated Xbox One launch game, and I have to say it didn't really disappoint. Graphically, Crimson Dragon, first of all, is a spiritual successor to the Panzer Dragoon series. A lot of the same team that worked on the Panzer Dragoon games worked on Crimson Dragon. But this game is, if you go into it expecting Panzer Dragoon, I think you might be a little bit disappointed. Because the way it's structured more like think like a Phantasy Star, like Monster Hunter type game, but don't get your hopes up too high. Just think of it in terms of like mission structure, where there's missions within the game, and then you repeat those missions over and over to kill enemies and get materials, which you can in turn use to make new dragons or upgrade your old dragons, get them new abilities. There's rare monsters that will appear every once in a while, and you can kill them and get possibly a rare drop. So in that instance, it's actually pretty cool. It's one of the better aspects of the game. Visually, the dragons and everything and the monsters don't look that great, but the environments are drop-dead beautiful. I mean, the lighting in this game and just the environments are rendered so well, colorful. I'd say they're varied, but only because there's only so many levels in the game, so in that aspect, I guess it's varied, but there's really not much of a selection when it comes to levels. It will be repetitive. This is not a game for people that don't want to do the same levels over and over. Apparently, I'm not sure if they've added it yet, but they're going to add online multiplayer. As of right now, it's single player only. And I want to address the #1 complaint that people have had about Crimson Dragon, and that is the theme of this video here: in-game microtransactions for a game that costs $20 already. The way it works, you get credits by playing the game normally in gems, and you can use that to unlock dragons and blah blah blah. Or you can just pay real world money, get a pack, get new items right away, make things a whole lot faster, a whole lot easier. It'll work up to a certain extent. You can play this game no problem. You'll get money at a pretty good rate because they actually updated the game day one to make money easier to kind of combat the negative reviews that were talking about this microtransaction system and how much grinding was required. So they made that a bit easier, so I can't really comment on how hard it used to be, like the reviews say. But I can tell you that right now it's really not that bad. I've had really no incentive to really want to spend money at all to make my upgrading faster or get new dragons. But eventually you're going to run out of gems. You're rewarded gems for completing achievements within the game that give you gems that'll let you unlock a certain tier of weapon upgrades and stuff like that, or items used to unlock and upgrade dragons that you can only use gems for, and gems are finite within the game, so eventually you will have to buy those. I think only the most hardcore of fans will have to end up actually spending money on this game, and at that point, when you get to that point where you run out of gems, you're probably a big enough fan of this game that you're probably going to want to buy and spend a little extra money on it. But other than that, I really am enjoying Crimson Dragon. It's pretty challenging, actually. I've been playing on the harder difficulties, and it's not an easy game, but it's not. Don't go into it expecting Panzer Dragoon, and I think you'll be okay. The last game that I want to talk about is this game right here, Skylanders Swap Force. Now, before you all flip out and say Skylanders is just a kid's game, let me explain something to you. Underneath the whole toy fiasco with Skylanders, everybody knows Skylanders is all about the toys and everything like that. Yes, there is a barrier in terms of entering this game. You have to buy toys to get the most out of it. But once you get over that hump, this is actually a really, really well-designed game in terms of the gameplay and the characters. Like, there's so much personality in this game with all the different characters you can play as. And the gameplay itself is like a dungeon crawler. Like, think of it like I hate to make the comparison, but the best way to put it into perspective for people is like, you know, a top-down Diablo game, but obviously not as in-depth and obviously scaled back for kids. But once you can overlook that fact, this Skylanders Swap Force, first of all, my first Skylanders game, I'm absolutely loving this. I won't really go on about it too much. I'll point you in the direction of an annotation here to check out a video of me playing it for the first time, kind of talking you through it, what Skylanders is really all about. Maybe you can make your own judgments. I'll just say maybe I can make a believer in some of you. I've actually, because I enjoy playing as the different characters so much, I've gone ahead and made a channel about Skylanders Swap Force characters and everything specifically. I'll put a link right here for you to check that out as well. If you're not in the Skylanders, maybe it'll convince you to check it out. And if you're not, you know, into Skylanders at all, don't even bother, because that's all it's about is Skylanders. But you might want to check it out. Maybe you'll decide to pick up the game and give it a try, because I sure as heck am enjoying it. And now's the time to try it out, because there's so many sales on figures during the holidays that it's really not as expensive as you might think it is. Anyway, guys, I think that's about all I have to say for the Xbox One in terms of the launch games that I picked up. I do want to pick up Peggle 2. That just came out a couple of days ago. I really want to try that out because I'm a big fan of the first Peggle. You know, we've got quite a bit of time to wait until the next game comes out. I'm really looking forward to Titanfall. It's probably my most anticipated game at the moment for both launch consoles. Still love my PS4, but I can see myself coming back to the Xbox One a bit more, just because games like Ryse, Skylanders, Dead Rising 3, heck, even Peggle 2 are going to keep me coming back a bit more frequently than the PS4 will. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully this maybe helped your decision between picking up a PS4 and an Xbox One. Anyway, guys, I'll see you all soon. Thanks for watching.